Thank you for tuning in to Abundant Moments. Under the law, Moses' law, if someone was caught in the act of adultery, there were several different punishments that they could face. And one of those punishments was that they could be stoned to death. Now, when Jesus was walking the earth, there's an account in the Gospels about these men bringing a woman to Jesus, and this woman was caught in the act of adultery. Now, I've always wondered what was going on here. I've always said, where was the man? They just brought the woman. And why were all these men looking in and what happened here? But anyways, that's a whole nother subject. But they brought this woman to Jesus and they were trying to trick Jesus because he was showing mercy and grace. Because when Jesus died and rose again, then we were no longer under the law because he fulfilled the law. Then we were under the covenant of grace. So it was sort of like a transition period because Jesus was trying to usher in mercy and grace. But they bring this woman to Jesus and they say, she's been caught in the very act. And under the law of Moses, we know that she has to be stoned to death. And so Jesus didn't even really look him in the eye. He was just writing in the sand and nobody knows what he was writing in the sand. I often thought, maybe he was writing some of their names because maybe they had, been with her or somebody else. But anyways, they said, what would you say that we do? And so then Jesus didn't even look up at them. He just said, the one that is without sin, go ahead and cast that first stone. Now, you got to put yourself in this woman's place for a minute because can you imagine what she was going through? First of all, the humiliation of these men bringing her to somebody else and her in fear of her life, literally, because she could have been stoned to death. And here she's standing there so afraid, not knowing what's going to happen, so condemned, so guilty, and so fearful. And Jesus says, he that is without sin cast the first stone. And as you continue reading, you see that from the eldest to the youngest, they all threw down their stones. You got to realize, I studied when people were stoned to death. There were several different ways they could stone them to death, but one of them, they would have these big, huge boulders. They would just beat them to death with it. So these men all had the stones in their hands ready to just take this woman's life. And as they began to walk away from the eldest to the youngest, then Jesus looked at her and he didn't say to her, man, you've really messed up. What are you doing with your life? You're such a sinner. No, but he gave her a gift. And the gift he gave her was no condemnation. He said, where are your accusers now? He said, I do not condemn you. And then he told her, go and sin no more. What a wonderful gift, the gift of no condemnation, given by the only one that was there, the only one that ever lived that could have condemned her because he was innocent. He never sinned, but yet he gave her this precious gift. Now, this gift of no condemnation is still for us today. Thank God for that. Jesus, when he died, he took our guilt, our shame. He was condemned in our place, and he has given us the gift of no condemnation. There is therefore now no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus. That's what the literal translation said, and those that translated, they added to it, who walk after the Spirit, not after the flesh, because they thought this is just too good to be true. Grace is too good to be true. The gift of no condemnation is too good to be true, but it's for us, that gift today. So I challenge you today, receive that gift. I challenge you today, give that gift to others. If Jesus doesn't condemn, who are we to condemn and say, oh, you're this terrible person, or talk about people behind their backs? No. The gift of no condemnation was given that day, and it's still the gift that keeps on giving. Thank God that there is no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus, period. Thank you for tuning in.